Hey, what's up, guys? It's Goose from the Wise Wealth Discord coming back at you, man. Another Sunday watch list. Going to be a good week ahead. Very excited to dive into the charts today. Um, sorry, I know it's just me right now. I'm just trying to figure out how to share my screen really quick. Let's go here, and then last time I didn't go back. I didn't. I had a completely black screen. I had a double take. So let me make sure I'm here. You guys can see me. You can see the Discord or the trading view chart, I believe. Let me where'd it go? Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. Beautiful, beautiful. That was VKTX. We're gonna go over that for Randy later. Very special announcement for that. He asked me if I could look over his stock. Would love to do that for all of you guys. But as always, I always start with the SPY because that is the S&P 500 broad-based index for U.S. stocks. What are we seeing on the S&P 500? Last week we had a break above, and it was a false breakout right now. Not saying get bearish. As you know, we've been very, very bullish over the course of this whole run. But when you have previous highs being broken, this is the 15-minute charts. I just want to show you some exact details. We'll go into a later, bigger time frames a little bit later. So we're looking for the break above 562 to create new all-time highs. It did do that, but it couldn't hold. So what you're seeing is just a false breakout. There's a decent sell-off from that happening. We're still maintaining pretty good levels. Obviously, there's a decent amount of support and like volume and stuff that's happened at this level at 555, 556. So that would be like my floor right now. Maybe go create a double bottom. It's going to be stuck in this range until obviously you can go create another higher high. But I was looking more at like the 4 hour. You could see that it's kind of like a bearish engulfing. I'm not saying it's a topping pattern or anything like that, but when you have the break above and then the false breakdown, usually it occurs in a little bit of selling. As you could see, the last hour of trading, it did create a higher high though. So it's like creating a higher high and then a higher low is still very bullish. So if anything, I'm not getting bearish below until it's below 555. Then maybe you see that double top, false breakout, start to break support a little bit more. And then next level would be 550. That's the Q or the SPY Qs. They had a little bit of a different look. I didn't really like how the close happened. They came up and came right into the 500 level that we were looking at because the break above was huge. When it did break above, but it just couldn't hold it. As you could see, it sold off pretty hard. I remember putting in Discord that 500 would be an interesting level to see if there's some sell side, and it just kind of kept going throughout the day. It was this day right here where it got through 500, kept going. But at some point, sellers stepped up. The RSI was a little high. And now what you're seeing is a lower high here. But we're seeing if it's going to create a lower low. That's really what's going to be start a new trend if you can actually get that lower low. You could see in the candlesticks though that like it seemed like there's a decent amount of selling. The 4 hour has the bearish engulfing. There's a big drop right there. You look at the weekly, not terrible. It just kind of looks like a little bit of a pullback scenario where a couple weeks of just consolidation, which is very healthy. When you have these big moves, it doesn't usually just continuously go straight up. So pullbacks and sellings do occur as people take profits, but that's why we watch our levels. So right now, anything above 500, very, very bullish on the Qs. Anything below 490 would just start to look a little bit ugly, but at the same time, you still have this right here, 487. A better view for it is on futures. So as you can see, we came back and retested previous like resistance. So we were coiled up in here flagging this. I remember we were posting this flag and it finally broke out. But the breakout point was right here at about 2360. And once it broke out, it was holding this. And now we're coming back and retesting, but bouncing from these levels. So it's like that's what you want to see in a bull market for it to continuously hold what previous resistance was and build support there and then go higher and then eventually break this level and, you know, yada yada, the same thing. You're going to want it to hold up here once it does get above. So in a strong bull market, it's just going to create, continuously base. And if you back it up, you could see that where it bases, it builds its support, breaks above, and then it holds what previously was. resistance where it was selling off from, and then it just builds a staircase up. Selling, it usually goes a little bit quicker. You're going to see these big red candles more than you're going to see huge green candles like that, just because selling happens faster typically. But that's why we're watching our levels on NQ 2367 below, and then 2090, 900, 2100, somewhere around there would be in full breakout mode. So we're on high alert. I still think it looks decent, but as you can see on the cues, a lower high, and that sell off towards the close, a little bit sketchy. Nothing to be concerned about. There's always pullbacks. I think those are very normal and expected, but it happens. So last week, a lot of us were talking about IWM and just what they're looking like because small caps are heavily affected by interest rates. Now that the interest rate is kind of a little bit more foreseen in September, went up to 80%, 86%. Now we're starting to see breaks of a huge base. And this is why, Jimmy and I are starting to get bullish. You have the fundamental side, or the macro side, whatever you'd like to call it, of interest rates coming down or potentially coming down. And then you have the breakout of 211. 50. I think Jimmy was 211.60 was like the exact thing. So that break right there is huge. Is the same thing that I was showing you on the cues. Is like these breaks here of huge bases. The longer the base, the bigger the break. So when IWM is breaking this, and it's been such a long time that it's been consolidating here, that's going to be a big move in the upside. So I'm going to back it up to the daily just to give you guys a better overall view. Has a beautiful, like, just base foundation. It's just breaking above now. So it could come back and retest. That's why I was bringing it to the 15-minute. You could definitely see that it could flag and just come down and fill this gap that it has and just consolidate here. But that's what you want to see. You want it to see build support on previous resistance. And once that happens, that gives you the know-how of where supply and demand is. So you could start to build a demand zone here where it'll buy off of this point. So we'll see how it flags out and how this gap right here fills. Gaps usually do fill eventually, but no one's to say it has to fill right away. Pretty big gap though. So anything below this little base that it has at 212, 213, definitely in danger to go back to 211. The 211.60 in the overall, trend is what you're going to be wanting to look for. As long as it holds to 1160, we're cooking. IWM is probably going to the moon. This is a big break right here. Very, very long 2-3 year base. 2022 couldn't get above these highs, and now they're finally hitting it. So I'm glad in my 401k I started adding them a little bit more. The Russell 2000 is what their main index would be. So I'm going to move on to crypto. I don't usually cover it all the time, but I've been trying to get it in there a little bit more. I know people are following it. I've had this range on there for a very long time, and it did break out of it. So you would think it would be a very bearish thing, but Bitcoin's starting to buy itself up. Getting above 60 was a huge push, honestly. Getting above 60 and holding that, that's a really big level, I think, to hold. That's right around where support, I think, should be. So if it could start holding this, it might be able to work its way back up into the top of the range. We'll see if it was just a bear trap to grab liquidity of sellers and then just to send it right back up. Because I know I'm going to cover, all Apple and Microsoft, but whenever I cover Bitcoin, I think of coin. So it's like when you see this drop and what it came down to, coin is coming right down to a support. So it's coming right down to the bottom end of this base right here. So that's beautiful. It's like if coin can start to get a little bit of love and Bitcoin can, and it's in this big flag pattern, anything above 260, just watch out. I think coin is going to fly because last year they were one of the better performing things. Higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. And then does it go? We'll see. If it does break down below, though, if Bitcoin starts to get bearish and they lose footing on 60K, I could see 155. I do keep my eyes to the possibility that those things can occur, but I don't usually sit here and try and, tempt people into shorting stocks because 80 to 90% of the time stocks are going to go up. And you just kind of have to get that in your head that you're looking for good setups to buy points, not really, sell them off. Apple, beautiful chart. I mean, there's not much you could say about it. You can see the ending on Friday, like just like the indexes were. We're just kind of creating double tops or lower highs. So it's there. I mean, there's a resistance there for sure. Sell side as much to like 225 would be a good spot to maybe double bottom or try and W shape it or something like that. I used to be able to draw the W shapes. I don't know how the hell I used to do it though. I don't think it would be Elliott waves. Sorry to. I'm just kind of curious as to where it used to be. Path. I guess that's close enough. Something like this where it hits this support zone around 225, comes up, denies it, and then boom, it could catch 225 again and do a beautiful W shape. You don't really, I mean, no one really knows exactly where it's going to go, but that's typically, a possibility that it could play out. If it loses that, then that's a level where it can continue to keep selling. Because I mean, the RSIs on like the longer time frames are kind of up there on most stocks, but as you know, RSIs have been overheated for the last like 3 months, and we're on an insane bull run. So it hasn't slowed anything down. It's just something to watch where there were divergences happen and like false breakouts. It is a lower high on the 4 hour. You can go in the daily. It looks like it got denied up here when it tried to get right back up there. Just denied, found some sellers. So there's definitely some things to look that don't look the best. So you kind of want to be patient this week. Make sure that, things start to build and start to gain momentum. Because sell side looks like it could be there on the 15-minute at Microsoft. You got a bear flag right here. I have this channel drawn out. We could always just go back to it, but little range, huge pull right here, and then it's a bear flag because it's this way. Bull flag would be opposite if it was a big green, like this, and then it breaks above again. So below, I would say 450. 450 is a good spot. If it starts to breach 450, Microsoft's probably falling a little bit more. Lowest support, I mean, somewhere, let's see where some of this consolidation is going on. If it does break 450, I mean, 445, 435, some of the levels we could watch out for. I mean, 435, 433 is going to be a huge level, but I'm not predicting that Microsoft's going to drop, 10%. That's a pretty big 4.5%. We'll see. If we get the sell off that, the cues are showing where it's like it could come create a lower high and it comes down to here, maybe that's something similar to what Microsoft has as it comes down and retest its previous, huge, huge, huge base. This base is a long time coming. We're talking 6 months. So it's like it's a good price point to come back and retest at 433 to get, more buyers to step in at those points. We have Tesla right here. Same thing, creating a lower high on the time frame. Staying above 250 was something you didn't really want to see. Jimmy had messaged me actually like I want to say 10 minutes before this video was starting to be made, and he's saying that Tesla was up like 4% and Robinhood's like all night trading or however it works. So that one, and then I think he said SMCI as well. I know I'm kind of all over the place right now, but I did want to cover them. SMCI, it's been in this beautiful thing. I had a whole thing on Discord about the golden pocket. That's the Fibonacci retracement tool. I know I haven't showed you guys very often on how to use that, but it's a good thing to see where certain support is. Low float stocks tend to or watch the Fibonacci a little bit more. I'm not sure why. I've just seen that, heard that a lot. Anything above like 900, 950 to 1,000, I mean, you're cooking. It's probably in full breakout mode. So you have just a beautiful flag pattern here. I know I sent it in Discord, but that right there is just picture perfect. I mean, you have the huge push, and now it's just ranging, ranging, ranging. The bigger the base, the bigger the break. When the longer it goes sideways, the more it goes, the price action is big. That's why when we go to like Tesla, remember when it was very, very sideways and we were just watching this all day, just sideways, sideways, sideways? That was a big break. We're talking January, the start of the year. It's just been going sideways. When it broke, you could see how, vicious the upside was right there, 30%. 30% move because the break was it was just such a sideways move. So when it comes to SMCI and chips and stuff, there's a lot of liquidity that's going into them. And you see this coil up. We're talking February. This is just consolidation. So when you see it ranging that hard, it's going to be a big break. I'm not biased in either way. It could break down and lose support, and then sell off, and that's when you get short. But with how strong, um, tech stocks in general, but semiconductors, which super microcomputer is, part of the chip sector, you just think that it's going to break in the upside. So it's like I'm pretty bullish on it. I do have some common shares in SMCI just because of the pattern that it has, and I do think it's going to break in the upside. If I'm trading options, I don't trade the sideways action. You wait for the break. That's where you're truly going to make most of your money in options. While I'm down here, we'll go to VKTX. This is one of the stocks that Randy wanted me to cover. So what I'm seeing, Randy, is just a nice little bull flag. It has this huge pull right here, and now it's cooling off. It's doing its channel. We're in a downtrend channel, so what you want to see is for it to break out of this green line around 70. Full breakout would be above 80. Then you're starting to cook all the way back up into all-time highs. If you do lose support at 44, though, there's a gap below that I could see a good reaction off. So watch out for 38 if it does come down. All the other things that I was looking at for Viking Therapeutics, I don't know. Hopefully, it's still sharing my screen. Let me go back to YouTube. No, it looks like it's staying on TradingView. I'll go. But Viking Therapeutics is developing a novel therapeutics for patients suffering from metabolic and endocrine disorders. So basically, from some of the information that I'm figuring out, is like it's all about data. I was asking Jimmy a lot about like farm companies and stuff like pharmaceutical companies, and it's kind of boom or bust depending on data. So like price action is kind of irrelevant in a way. You're still going to see a lot of strength in the names that are continuously putting out good data and making breakthroughs and getting approvals from the FDA. But if things do go bad, fa- pharmaceutical companies are usually very volatile. So it's like you could see them almost half in just a short amount of time just by one bad research or bad data coming out. So the volatility and like the high beta, stocks that they call it, is a little bit more risky, so it's not usually my forte. But in the long term, if you look at like the weekly, it really does look like it's on a great uptrend and there's a lot of strength. I don't pay attention to the company enough to say if it's a good or a bad company, what some of the numbers are. But if they're getting good data and they're staying strong and the technicals are holding and you start to see the gap get filled and then it bounces off or it breaks this flag above, I don't see why you can't be bullish because on the weekly it's very, very bullish. I mean, the worst you could do is come back to 25. And I would be accumulating there. Is like some of these companies, if you believe in them in the long term and you think they have it, it's like you always want to be accumulating. You're not looking for a trend in the day unless you're trading options. But in a long term investment, if you're looking for a company, you just want to continue to accumulate. And on these dips like this, when it happens for weeks on end, that's when you want to be buying. So I'm not sure what kind of position you're thinking for this stock. Um, I'm not a financial advisor by any means, but that's kind of how I would look at it. Is like if you're looking for long term, this would be a great time to be buying. If you understand the risks that pharmaceutical companies come with, that it can be halved, in a day or two. But same with options. And if it was coming to options, I would wait for technicals to play out above 70, above 80, because options expire, shares don't. So it's like that's my take on it. Is like if you're a long-term investor, buy because it's in a great dip, a little pullback. That's awesome. That's when you want to be buying. If you're an option trader, I would just be patient. It does have a bullish move happening. It's a nice flag, nice pattern. So that's just kind of how I view it. Jimmy was giving me some information about how pharmaceutical companies move. I thought it was kind of interesting to look up. So thanks for asking that question. I appreciate you, Randy, and thanks for tuning into the videos. We'll get right back into it with some of the mega caps. We got Meta, came down, false breakout. You wanted to see it hold this 530, what was previous resistance. Couldn't hold it. This is the daily, by the way. You could go to the 15-minute. It was a battle. It was a battle. It was trying to hold it. Finally lost it. Huge sell side. And now it's coming down to the bottom of support. So we'll see. The weekly, honestly, on Meta doesn't look that great. That is one that I kind of think is like possibly bearish just because it's like the double top, false breakout, and a bearish engulfing. And then you have strong divergence too. I know I don't always show divergence a lot, but it's, just an oscillator, like a momentum indicator versus what the chart is showing. And it's showing lower highs on the RSI, but then on the chart it shows higher highs, as you can see, and higher lows. So that's a big divergence that it's showing as well. Divergence is just showing a weakening in trend or a possible reversal. So when you're looking for reversal signs, it's obviously going to be at like a resistance, and then you're going to see like um, a divergence in the RSI. So that's part of the reason my thesis on it is like I think Meta could be a sell. That's just where I'm at. But for technicals and option purposes, you're going to want to see it break below the 480, 490 level. You want to see it break below this huge support that it has going on right now. I'm not bearish on the market, so I'm not going to tell you to go short it, but Meta, Amazon is another one that I thought looked possibly kind of bearish. Huge. It tried to consolidate and just hold it, but it couldn't. So that's the daily. You could see the 15-minute. It has this huge support, and then once it breaks it and the downside, it sells off. So it's like that's why I'm never really biased. Is like I just play with the levels that I'm looking at, and if it breaks below them, that could sell off. And same thing, because it's just supply and demand. And once it loses the demand zone here, then that's going to turn into supply, and people are going to start selling their shares. And it's like then it's going to try and find a new support, new demand zone, which would be what previous resistance was. Because this used to be a supply zone, now it's a demand zone. This is where people are going to want it at 190. Kind of a head and shoulders too. That's part of the reason I'm slightly bearish on this stock as well. So Amazon, Meta, and Netflix. Those are the ones that I don't think look the best. They're breaking down their supports. As you can see, they had a strong support here at 663. And then towards the end of the day, they broke down in their bear flag as well. So there are some stocks that look bearish. The QQQ and stuff is creating lower highs. So maybe, maybe we do have a pullback. Maybe we have a slight correction. But I'm just going to continue to play the daily levels. It either goes up, down, or sideways. And once you identify sideways, it's pretty easy to identify if it goes up or down from there. So that's usually how I play it with options. That's about it, though, guys. I do appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope it was a great help and you guys got some good information. IWM bullish, QQQ undecided, depends on support. SPY undecided, breaking back down. Then a lot of the stocks do look pretty bullish. They're just in double tops or bearish formations, but still holding supports. It's like once these supports are starting to be broken, this range right here, AMD, I don't know if I ever covered that actually. That's actually a great bullish move that they had. But same thing, double, triple top. If it breaks below 178, then you have more sell side to ensue. So I'm forecasting a little bit of a sell side if it does get ugly because there's at a lot of supports, but I'm not predicting like a huge sell off or a crash or anything like that because we're in a we're in election year, and 9 times out of 10 they're very bullish, and we also have crazy technology that's coming to the forefronts with chips and AI. So I don't put anything past this bull run, but we're always going to play our levels because that's what we do here at Wise Wealth, man. Appreciate you guys for checking in. I will get back to you guys in the middle of the week. Oh, news. Sorry, I was about to get out of here. I don't know if this is even showing, but news. We have Empire State Manufacturing. Jerome Powell speaks tomorrow. Middle of the month. Jerome Powell speaking tomorrow. We have core retail sales Tuesday, unemployment claims Thursday. That's about it. A lot of Fed speakers towards the end of the week, but those are all whack people. But Fute's looking good. Fute's are ripping, yo. It's building something though. we'll see. We'll see if the Bulls can start to take control as a low volume pump Monday. They're always a good time, always a good time. But thanks for tuning in, guys. I appreciate every single one of you taking the time. Hope you have a great weekend.